Shalom and Ashar Shabbat Yasharala. I hope that y'all are having a splendid, terrific, and fabulous evening, morning, or afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and timestamp the day Hebraically and then Gregorian wise, and then I'll move into introducing the teaching that will be in this day. Today is the 21st day of the seventh Hebrew month. It is now the seventh day of the week. As far as the phase of the moon, I'm not certain because I have not been outside to be able to comprehend the phase. So I'll have to check back in on that at a later time. So hopefully moving forward, I'm able to incorporate the phase of the moon. We're currently in the keeping of the Feast of Tabernacles. Today is my sixth day in my keeping of the Feast of Tabernacles. So to any of you that are complete in keeping your Feast of Tabernacles, I hope that it was amazing, fulfilling, and I hope that you received the edification that you were supposed to receive. And to any of you that are currently keeping it, I hope that you are enjoying yourself to the fullest and thanking the Most High in every moment that He has allowed you to keep this day. He's giving you that honor and that benefit. The glory be all to the Most High. So, again, it's the seventh day of the week, the 21st day of the seventh month, and we are in the Feast of Tabernacles. Glory be to the Lord. As far as Gregorian wise, it is the 10th day of the 10th month of the year of 2025 AD. It is currently Friday. Right now, it's about 8:47 PM, and that is Central Standard. The glory to the Most High. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. It was like drizzling here and there, but then it's warm and then a little cool, a little bit of everything over here. Gotta get used to it. So, we're going to be in the book of Romans. I am super de duper excited. I have been in touch with Paul for almost a month. So I started in Acts and then I transitioned to Romans and I'm just going to keep moving there. I just finished the epistle of Paul's epistle to Romans, I'm sorry, this afternoon. So I just finished Romans and I'm going to be moving into First Corinthians. But I thought, "Oh my gosh, like, I haven't been on my channel in super long, so I wanna share this epistle with you all with the new enlightenment that I have, with the experience that has matured me in my walk and gaining better understanding in these scriptures." Romans is amazing, y'all. I'm super excited to share it with y'all. But a few things before we start. 1, this microphone I'm not used to this microphone, okay? This is literally the second time that I've used it. Yesterday was the first time, today is the second time. I got it because it was pink and I didn't wanna have to keep using my phone to record, okay? So I'm not sure if it's screeching, if it's skipping a word, or if it's not catching and picking up everything. I'm still trying to gain a better understanding of how to use it. I also ordered another one. It's the same brand, same color, but it goes on the desk. It's like one that sits on the desk. So I'm hoping that that will be better because I'll be able to sit closer to my desk and speak to you all. This one is clipped on the hutch right now and it's super close to my face. Okay. So I'm hoping that this works well. The second thing, I've noticed that the internet service provider that I have, AT&T, is not that good, okay? But where I live, because it's a new what is it called? Like a new what would be the word for it? Anyhow, it's a new building, new buildings, whatever. It's new. So I guess they contracted with AT&T and AT&T is the only provider here. I don't like AT&T, but I do notice that it skips and it drops very occasionally. So there may be times where I may glitch or skip or look like a Moabite movie. It's the internet service provider, okay? Third, I'm not gonna be on camera this entire teaching. I don't like being on camera anymore, you all. It's a personal preference of mine for discretion reasons and just because I really just don't like to be on camera, to be honest with you. In former times, I was okay with it. Now, I'm not. I rather the privacy of not being on camera. I don't mind greeting you all, for now on, and maybe small intermissions when I'm defining a word, et cetera. But for the most part, I'm not gonna be on camera. Okay. We're going to move right on into what we're going to be reading today. We're going to be in Romans, the epistle of Paul the apostle. It is amazing. Once again, it's amazing. But before we start, I want us to get an understanding of what an epistle is. So I'm going to use my handy dandy KJV dictionary. Very simple, very straightforward. And we're going to see the word epistle is a noun. It's two definitions. It's a writing directed or sent communicating intelligence to a distant person. a letter, actually the third definition, a letter missive. So an epistle is basically a letter. So keep that in mind when we are reading the epistle of Paul to the Romans. This lets us know a number of things. One, this letter is addressed specifically to a person or persons, not for everybody on the planet. Two, it lets us know that one part of the letter is not going to oppose the other part. Even though it's broken down in chapters in the canon, we have to keep in mind that it is a letter. So nothing's going to oppose the other. It's going to tie right in and wove together perfectly. Okay? So keep that in mind. The third thing, Paul, he has long thoughts, very, very long thoughts that he conceives and has written on paper. And so sometimes it can become complex to understand Paul. But we got to understand Paul was very, very intelligent. That was a very intelligent man. He spoke more than one language. We know that he spoke in the Latin Vulgate or the Latin language. And we also know that he spoke Hebrew. And I think he may have spoke I know he spoke with Latin and Greek. For sure, Latin and Greek. But I'm under the impression, I don't know why, deep in my thoughts, that he spoke a third language. And I'll have to revisit notes or something to that nature. But for sure, he spoke Latin and he spoke Hebrew or Ibaya. So keep those things in mind. But we're going to go ahead and hop right into the Epistle of Paul. And I hope that you all enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed it. I'm going to go ahead and hop off of the camera and I'll be right back and we'll get to some reading. I hope that y'all enjoy it. The Epistle of Paul, the Apostle to the Romans, chapter 1, verse 1. It reads, Paul, a servant of Yahushua HaMashiach, called an apostle, separated unto the gospel of Yahweh. Paul starts his epistle or his letter by introducing and laying the foundation of his credibility in being chosen and used by Yahweh. Verse 2, it says, which he had promised afore by his prophets in the Holy Scriptures. So mind you, keep in mind, this is one entire thought. Verses 1 through 7 is one entire thought. But because it's written in an epistle form or in book form, there are commas, there are semicolons, and there are colons to elongate and properly place in grammar how this thought is being written. But it's one full thought. So let's reread verse 2 again. It says, which he had promised afore by his prophets in the Holy Scriptures. So Paul continues his thought by saying that the same gospel that he was set apart and chosen by Yahweh through Yahweh Shai to proclaim is the same gospel that Yahweh promised by his prophets through the Scriptures. Verse 3, it reads, concerning his son Yahushua HaMashiach, our Lord, which was made of the seed of David according to the flesh. Verse 3 is basically saying that the gospel about Yahushua, who concerning the flesh descended from David. So that lets us know that, of course, this is continuance of a being that was spoken about in the scriptures aforetime. And not only that, he's not a celestial being. He came from amongst or in the midst of his brethren. He descended from the loins of David. So he is a Hebrew Israelite. Verse 4, it says, and declared the Son of Yahweh with power, according to the Spirit of holiness, by the resurrection from the dead. Verse 4 is saying, Yahushua was appointed as the Son of Yahweh in power by resurrection from the dead. Verse 5, it reads, by whom we have received grace and apostleship for obedience to the faith among all nations for his name. So verse 5 is saying that it is through Yahushua that we've received grace and apostleship to encourage obedience through faith among the nations for his name's sake. Verse 6 reads, among whom are ye also the called of Yahushua Hamashiach. That verse is basically saying, this includes you. You're invited and called to belong in Yahushua. In verse 7, it says, to all that be in Rome, beloved of Yahweh, called saints, grace to you, and peace from Yahweh our Father, and the Lord Yahushua Hamashiach. And that's simple. It's just saying to Yahweh's beloved in Rome, called saints, grace and peace to you. Now I want to take a moment to state a couple of things. As a reminder, I only read from a KJV, okay? So my KJV looks exactly like yours, with the exception of including the Apocrypha. But on the flip side, I do have italics in my KJV, but I don't read the italics. The italics are just placeholders for the predominant English speaker to properly understand what you are reading that has been transliterated from Latin or Ibaria, aka Hebrew, into the English language. So I don't read the placeholders or the italics because for me, it's much easier to understand without them. So I hope that makes sense. And just a quick reminder. And secondly, I want to encourage you to stay with me. Stay with me. I know we're starting off slow, okay? I want to make sure that we have a proper understanding of the book of Romans, this epistle from Paul, and that we understand our brother Paul. He is very intelligent. So it's going to start off slow, but it's going to get very, very good. So stick with me. Have some patience for me. Verse 8, it says, let me turn my page here. Sorry. First, I thank my God through Yahushua Hamashiach for you all, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world. That's self-explanatory. So Paul is just letting it be known that he's thankful for us, or thankful for the Gentiles at that time in Rome, and that he's acknowledging that their faith has been commended throughout the world. Verse 9, it says, for God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the gospel of his Son, that without ceasing I make mention of you always in my prayers. He's just basically saying, Yahweh, who I serve with my whole spirit by preaching this gospel, is my witness that you are always in my prayers, and I ask to be able to come to see you. So verse 10, it says, making request if by any means now at length I might have a prosperous journey by the will of God to come unto you. So again, verses 9 through 10 is just basically Paul saying that Yahweh, who he serves with his whole spirit by preaching this gospel, is his witness that these Romans, these Gentiles are always in his prayers, and that he is asking to be able to go and see them. Verse 11, it says, for I long to see you, that I may impart unto you some spiritual gift, to the end ye may be established. And I'm going to read verse 12. It says, that is, that I may be comforted together with you by the mutual faith, both of you and me. So verses 11 through 12 are basically saying, I desire to see you so I can share this illumination to make you stronger and solidify you, that through mutual faith, we're both encouraged and solidified. That's beast, y'all. Do you understand that? That is beast. Like, do you understand that? Let me help y'all understand something that I don't think that y'all are grasping at this moment. So, the content of Romans is centered in the theme of God's revelation of righteousness. Sorry, I'm already getting tongue twisted because I'm excited. I'm getting excited. It's centered in us understanding the righteousness of the Most High. Verses 11 through 12 are a very goodness gracious. I'm getting tongue twisted. Y'all got to calm down. My spirit is about to jump about my body. Verses 11 through 12 are a very, very strong verse for us to understand. So I want to read them again and then explain them again. It says, "For I long to see you, that I may impart unto you some spiritual gift, to the end ye may be established. That is, that I may be comforted together with you by the mutual faith both of you and me." Paul is saying, I desire to see you so I can share this illumination to make you stronger, to solidify you, that through mutual faith, we're both encouraged and solidified. Do you understand that as the 12 tribes scattered abroad, as a child of Israel, as a remnant that have the seed, that have this understanding of the spirit of prophecy, do you understand that as we share in this walk, that we are supposed to yearn and long for the opportunity to congregate? There should never be times that we are saying that I don't want to congregate. I had this bad of an experience. I had this negative of an experience. This woman did this to me. This man did this to me. I don't trust leadership. That's not a real elder. Oh, that's not a real priest, etc., etc. We should be longing to see one another, to be able to be solidified and illuminated and edified by us sharing in the same faith and hope that we will be saved and that the law that we are following is going to be our ticket into the salvation given unto us through Yahweh Shai. We don't have that. We don't have that. Israel is worse than the world. I was just thinking this while reading in the book of Romans. Israel is worse than the world. And I even said to myself, I don't expect more out of an Israelite that's practicing as an Israelite. I don't expect more from them than I expect from someone in the world. I expect them to act the same way or even worse. And that's not good. That's not good. That ain't good at all. We are supposed to be reverencing, leading one another, and prone to love one another. We are supposed to gather together because we are a nation that is not desired, and we should enjoy those times. But I can confidently say, as a woman, as I speak on this day, it is not the most comfortable thing to congregate with congregations. It's not the most comfortable thing to be able to sit down next to a sister and talk to a sister and know that she gonna keep it real with me and I can keep it real with her. And that's not saying for me to overstep boundaries or to allow someone to overstep my boundaries. Because we gotta understand one thing that's extremely important. Something that is extremely important. Boundaries are not walls, my people. They are bridges. Okay? Most people think that boundaries are barriers, but true boundaries are clear lines of authentic communication without the erosion of yourself. Without boundaries, my people, relationships become blurred and you lose the ability to distinguish where your needs and another's begins. It looks like closeness at first, but later develops into resentment and suffocation and the quiet loss of identity. Boundaries are about respect, my people. They don't limit love, they protect it and create the conditions in which trust and intimacy and freedom can flourish. Okay? When boundaries are created, it's not pushing the other away, it invites them to meet you in a space where both can flourish free from harm. You understand that? Boundaries are essential for your mental health. They are acts of self preservation. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not to say that I want to be around someone that I can, lose my boundaries with, and, they lose their boundaries with me. It's about being around brethren or sisters of my people that look like me, know my struggle, understand the complexes, and even combing my hair, for being able to be around each other and be lifted in the spirit and edified. There is no reason for you to leave congregating with your people and to feel lower than what you were before you came. It shouldn't work like that. Let's get back over here to the book of Romans. And I'm going to reread verses 11 through 12. I'm going to repeat what verses 11 through 12 are saying. And then we're going to move on to verse 13. So verses 11 through 12. It says, "For I long to see you, that I may impart unto you some spiritual gift, to the end ye may be established. That is, that I may be comforted together with you by the mutual faith both of you and me." Paul is saying, I desire to see you so I can share this illumination to make you stronger and solidify you, that through mutual faith we're both encouraged and solidified. We have to adopt this desire and true, sincere desire to be around one another, which is rooted in us sincerely loving one another. Excuse me. Let's move on to verse 13. It says, "Now I would not have you ignorant, brethren, that oftentimes I purposed to come unto you, but was let hitherto, that I might have some fruit among you also, even as among other Gentiles." Paul is saying, I planned to see y'all, but to yield more fruit, I had to put this work in. Okay. So I'd have results of my labor among you like the rest of the Gentiles. You understand? So he's basically just wanting to make sure that he's yielding fruits from his work to the same. Let me reword that. Let me say that one more time because I wrote it down. I knew I was going to tongue twist. That's why I wrote it down. So he is saying that I planned to see y'all, but to yield more fruit, I had to put in this work so I'd have results of my labor among you all like the rest of the Gentiles. That's what he's saying. Verse 14, it reads, "I am debtor both to the Greeks and to the barbarians, both to the wise and to the unwise." Now, this was something that I thought was pretty interesting. That word barbarians, let me show y'all something. Maybe we're going to do an intermission. One second, let me show you something. So I'm hoping that I can explain this correctly. But the barbarians spoken of here, I'm thinking are also Israelites. You understand? I'm reading from my Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. I'm in the definition of barbarian. The definition of barbarian reads, originally anyone who did not speak Greek. Later, one who was not a part of the Greco-Roman culture. And it says, see occupations and professions. And that profession being a barber. Barber, it says, the word barber occurs but once in the scriptures in Ezekiel 5:1. However, great attention was paid to the hair and beard among the ancients. The barber must have been a well-known tradesman. The instruments of his work were probably the razor, the basin, the mirror, and perhaps the scissors. He usually plied his trade in the open on the street. So I'm thinking that a barbarian was an Israelite because it mentioned having hair and a beard. In the Roman culture, those men had shaved faces. If you have, because I was about to go say two things at one time. If you have seen the movie Gladiator before Denzel Washington, the ending of his acting career, then you can kind of grasp how the Romans were in that time. And I believe that this particular epistle, I wrote it down here. I think that this epistle was written around 57 AD. So we go and visit that time. You can Google it. You can look in your dictionary, your encyclopedias to get pictures of that time frame. And the majority of those men had shaven faces. So I'm thinking that the barbarians that they're speaking about here are Israelites. They were most likely just unlearned Israelites. They were uncircumcised in heart. So I just wanted to point that out. So if you do a little bit more research on it and you find additional information before I do, leave it in the comments. I would love to visit it a little bit more. I'm about to hop off I'm about to hop off the camera and then put my, dictionary back into the library, and then I'll get back into reading with y'all. One moment. Okay. Now, in addition to what we were just reading about the barbarians when it referred us to Ezekiel 5:1, I just wanted to read that aloud for any of those that may have been interested and wanted to kinda catch that verse in the case that you forget at the end of this teaching. So Ezekiel 5, verse 1, it reads, "And thou, son of man, take thee a sharp knife, take thee a barber's razor, and cause to pass upon thine head and upon thy beard. Then take thee balances to weigh, and divide thee." So that's just for you to reference if you wanted to reference the information that was read in the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. We're going to come back over to the book of Romans, chapter 1, and we're going to repeat verse 14 and then move on to verse 15. Verse 14, again, it says, "I am debtor both to the Greeks and to the barbarians, both to the wise and to the unwise." That one is very self explanatory. We don't have to go into detail about breaking that one down. Verse 15, it says, "So as much as in me is, I am ready to preach the gospel to you that are at Rome also." That one is also very self explanatory. We don't have to break that one down anymore. Verse 16, it says, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Yahushua, for it is the power of Yahweh unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek." That one is very self explanatory. We don't have to break that one down anymore. Verse 17, it says, and I apologize. Let me actually reword that. I don't want to say it's very self-explanatory because we may have newcomers into this faith that may, have stumbled across this video, and I don't want to make anyone feel incompetent or like they don't know if you really don't know. So I don't want to say that it's self-explanatory. But from where I am in my walk, that's easy to understand and, um yielding myself to the basically where you may be in your understanding, I would assume that you understand as well. But if you don't, you can definitely leave a message or a comment, and I don't mind breaking it down or putting it in layman's terms so that we can better understand together. So I'm going to reread verse 16 and then move to verse 17. Verse 16 again, it reads, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Yahweh Shai, for it is the power of Yahweh unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek." Verse 17, it says, "For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith." Verse 17 is saying, in the gospel, a righteousness that Yahweh assigns is revealed, both coming from faith and leading to faith. And then it refers us to something that is written, which is found in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4. So let's read Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4. One second. I think it's in page 698. I gotta find it, y'all. Hold on. Okay, I always do this with Habakkuk. He just be like hiding. Hold on. Yeah, it is 968. Where did I just turn? Oh, I was in the sixes. Y'all, I can't tell the numbers from the six from the nine. Okay. So Habakkuk 2, verse 4 reads, "Behold, his soul is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith." That is basically saying that the man who through faith is just and upright shall live and live by faith. So verse 17 once again says, "For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith." So Paul, he all the time in his epistles refers to what we call the Old Testament or the precursor all the time. So it is not the wisest thing to disregard the Old Testament, thinking that you no longer need to know about it. Because when Paul is referencing the Old Testament in his epistles, it is just basically confirmation that the things that were spoken about aforetime pertaining our salvation, pertaining our Savior, pertaining the one that we would have to answer to once the Most High required of is coming to manifest. So it is very wise that you do indeed diligently study to show yourself approved and understand these scriptures as they are written. Verse 18, it says, "For the wrath of Yahweh is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who hold the truth in unrighteousness." That, I believe, is easy to understand. Verse 19, it says, "Because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God has shewed unto them." Verse 19 is just basically saying Yahweh is revealing his wrath from heaven toward these wicked individuals because what is known about Yahweh is not hidden. It's plain. It's in their inner consciousness. He shows you his existence. You know he exists. You cannot say that you don't know that he exists because he is the one that made you. You were made by him through him. So there's no way that you could say that he does not exist and that you don't think he exists and that there is no God because he laid it in your very foundation. It's in your inner conscious that you know that he exists. What is the first thing that we say when we don't do what we knew we should have done? And I quote, we always say, "Something told me not to do that." What if that's something that told you not to do that? Stop playing games. We know that the Most High exists because he sold it right in your inner man, your inner woman. So you know he exists. Verse 20, it says, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse." Now, this is actually found in the book of Psalms, chapter 19, verses 1 through 4. So let me turn there and read that to you, and then we'll come back and we will break that verse down. So, Psalm, yeah, it is Psalm, Psalm 19, verses 1 through 4. It reads, "The heavens declare the glory of Yahweh, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night sheweth knowledge. No speech nor language, their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun." So coming back to verse 20, it says, "For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse." So we see the Most High's creation. And that invisible thing that's named in verse 20 is his eternal power and his divinity. We see these things in his creation. You look at a beautiful elephant. You look at a beautiful giraffe. You look at a fierce lion. You look at the sky, you look at the way that the waves never pass this specific point. There's dry and there's wet. You understand? You look at the trees in the Amazon. There's no way to deny it. His eternal power and divinity is right there in our face from his very creation. Verse 21, it says, because that when they knew God, they glorified not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. So he's saying that you don't have no excuse and that you without excuse because you know about his eternal power and you know about his divinity. But instead of you glorifying the Most High as the Most High God of Israel, you became godless in your thinking. Verse 22, it says, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. So you becoming godless in your thinking made you simple. You made yourself simple. Verse 23, it says, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. So you polluted yourself. That's basically what he's saying. You polluted yourself. If we refer back to the book of Exodus, and when Moses went up into the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights to get the law of the Most High and bring them back down to the Israelites. And Yahweh told Moses to hurry up and get down there for them people because they down there polluting themselves. They were polluting themselves because they took the gold from the earrings and from the wrist of the women, and Aaron made them a golden calf. So them glorifying and worshiping something that is corruptible is what polluted them. So coming back over to verse 23 to reread and then move to verse 24. Verse 23 again says, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, into birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Verse 24, it says, wherefore Yahweh also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. Now that, I got a precept for that one. I believe that that is easy to understand, but I want to read this precept for it. It's found in Ecclesiasticus, chapter 25, and I believe it's verse 13. Let me see. One second. Mm. Ecclesiasticus, chapter 25, verse 13. It says, give me any plague but the plague of the heart, and any wickedness but the wickedness of a woman. So we come back over here to the epistle to the Romans. In verse 24, it says, wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. The book of Sirach, or Ecclesiasticus, which I would like to call it, it tells you to give me any plague but the plague of a heart. You do not want the plague of your heart. You do not want to lose your mind. You do not want the Most High to smote you with a senseless mind, with a reprobate mind. That is the scariest thing on this earth. It says, give me any plague but the plague of the heart. That's your mind. You have to stay sane. You have to stay in the know of this law, in the know of the existence of Yahweh. You don't want to be smote reprobate. Verse 25, it says, who changed the truth of Yahweh into a lie and worship and serve the creature more than the creator who is blessed forever. Amen. So since you imagine wickedness and pollute yourself is the reason that he turned you over to your own mind. He gave you the plague of the heart. Verse 26, it says, for this cause Yahweh gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And we already know what this is turning into. When the Lord gives you over to your mind, you have lost all manner of moral. You have no morals anymore. That law is no longer in you. He gives you up to vile affections. I want to look up that word vile so I can get an understanding of it. Y'all know I love words. Give me a second. I'm pulling it up in my regular dictionary. One moment. I think because 'cause y'all can't see me, it just seems so quiet. So that word "viled" means vile means extremely unpleasant, morally bad, wicked, and that's the Webster's dictionary definition of vile. So it says, "For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature." So because you want to be polluted, because you want to imagine wickedness, he will give you over to vile affections. Verse 27, it says, "And likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet." That word unseemly here means shame. So just as the woman did change the natural use, so now she's no longer desiring a man. She desires a woman like she should desire a man. And vice versa. The man no longer desires the woman. He desires the man as he should be desiring the woman. You're working that which is shameful. That is disgusting. And then it says, "in receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meat." The majority of homosexual, let me the another word, because I don't want to get this video taken down because I know everybody's sensitive now. Let's say sexual moho. We know that the majority of the majority of sexual mohos, they are HIV positive, they have AIDS. That is that person receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meat, which means it was fit for you. That was the judgment that you were supposed to receive because you know that there is a God. And since you want to disregard the Most High and pretend that He doesn't exist and you want to start imagining wickedness, you've received what was meet for you. Verse 28, it says, "And even as they did not like to retain God in knowledge, Yahweh gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient." Verse 28 is just basically saying, just as you did not want to acknowledge Yahweh, he gave you over to a mind without knowledge to do things that don't fit well with your needs. That doesn't fit well for anyone to be anally penetrated. Okay. It doesn't fit well for anyone to basically be, I guess, you know, hunching on a bush or whatever. That's not fit and it's not meat for anyone. It's inconvenient, meaning it does not fit your needs. You're never going to be satisfied because that's not what it's made for. Just because it's a hole does not mean it's supposed to be used as an entrance. It's an exit. You understand? So it's a unseemly, unfitting, very inconvenient thing. And it's a shame. Verse 29. It says, "Being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of Yahweh, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them." So verses 29 through 31, it lets us know that those individuals, the sexual mohos, they are filled with all unrighteousness. Okay? Not only did it label that they are filled with all unrighteousness, it labels additional characteristics that accompany these people. Fornication, that's spiritual and natural. Wickedness, they are ill willed, evil. Covetousness, they're lustful. Maliciousness, that is an ill will, evil person. Full of envy, that's jealousy. Murder, Debate, that's strife and contention. Deceit, we know they're liars because you see that it's a he, but he wants you to call him a she. And you see that she's a she, but she wants you to call her a he. Malignity, that's bad character. We know they have bad character. Whisperers, that's a secret slanderer. Backbiters, they defame or they evil speak of people. Haters of Yahweh, well, we already know that. Despiteful, that means that they're uplifted with pride. They're proud. Boasters, that's an empty pretender. Inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, which means relentless and unmerciful. The thing that I wanted to point out here, something important that I wanted to point out here, it's labeled in verse 32. Verse 32 says, "Who knowing the judgment of Yahweh, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them." Please understand that these people know that what they're doing is wrong. They understand that the lifestyle that they live and lead is wrong. They will even tell you that they know that the Most High God hates sexual mohos. They know that. They are very well aware. And the scripture lets you know that they are aware of this. They have pleasure in doing these things because why? Because they are filled with all unrighteousness. And not only that, the Lord has given them over to a reprobate mind because they do not want to acknowledge his existence. I hope that you all enjoyed the beginning of the understanding of Paul's Gentile ministry. We are going to move into chapter 2 a little later in the Shabbat. I got to take a moment to stop tongue twisting and make sure that I have everything that I want to introduce and talk about in chapter 2. Remember, I know that it came off slow and that we had to take it slow in the beginning, but it was just to gain an understanding of the foundation that was being laid by Paul. I hope that y'all enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed you all. Let me get on camera here. I enjoyed y'all. And I hope that y'all enjoyed the reading as well. Don't forget, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Never cease prayer, bind and loose, and always live ready. I will talk to you all as Yahweh wills. Shalom. Oh, Ashar Shabbat. Bye.